Yeah. Namaskaram, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we have dear Ushaka with us. Ushaka did a program in 2000, so I think we have a very, very long story today. So, Namaskaram, Akka, and welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining
Namaskaram,
me.
Anna. Namaskaram. Namaskaram.
So, Akka, with your permission, we can go directly into the podcast if that's okay.
Yes, Anna. Sure.
So, Akka, before 2000, also, we need to go way back, like from your childhood, if possible. Like, if you could talk to us a bit about yourself. A lot of meditators would be really, really willing to listen to this. Like, Rohan Anna sent me your contact. Like, he said he wants to know your story. So, please.
Okay. Anna, basically, I was born and brought up in Delhi, and nothing very remarkable about my childhood, Anna. I was a extremely studious person, always into my books and doing very well in studies, always first in class.
Oh,
That is what mostly life was about. And but basically, like I would say, the first remarkable thing is the 10th standard board exams. So even though I was a very good student, I would always get extremely stressed out about exams. And so like the board exams particularly, they were like a complete terror for me. And like I was quite a wreck actually after the exams. And the 10th standard exams happened. I did of course very well. Then this thing,
how much percentage, Akka? How much percentage?
I don't remember now, but somewhere in the 90s.
Oh, okay.
And then after that, next was I took science in 11th and 12th, and then was the 12th standard board exam. So what the 10th standard board exam started, the 12th standard board exam finished.
Okay.
So basically, Anna, these two exams, and the related stress and everything, it set off something in me, which basically was a lifelong problem that I have lived with. So this is something called Crohn's disease. It is an autoimmune disorder and it is stress related. So for me, it all started with this exam stress of 10th standard and 12th standard board. So I did, of course, very well in my 12th standard board also. I got all some 97%, I think, PCM, something like that. And after that, I was a science student. I wanted to take up engineering. I got admission into one engineering college, REC. That time there used to be RECs, regional engineering colleges. So REC Kurukshetra.
Kurukshetra, Akka? My dad studied over there.
Oh, really?
Yes. I don't know which year. That's why I'm like REC. So I'm like, okay.
I was only there for all of 1 week, Anna.
Oh, okay.
One visit to the workshop, and they gave me a hammer and they said, you have to, have a go with it. And then I ran away. I said, this is not for me. I cannot do this. I just ran away from there, and I came back to Delhi and I left science only. I went straight to commerce. And so I got admission into SRCC, Delhi University. There's one of the very good universities. Actually, it is, I think, one of the best universities for commerce in the country. So I passed out from there. So it was in the third year of college, Anna, that actually I started falling ill. And so basically, this Crohn's disease is something which affects the intestines. And so then, I used to keep, I started, I had loss of appetite, loss of weight, and fever. So all of these symptoms. So this was under 1994, the year 1994. So that time in our country, autoimmune disorders were extremely rare. Okay, nobody had even heard of such things. Today, the scenario is completely different. It is very common. Every other person has something or some of the other autoimmune disorder, but that time it was extremely rare. And so the doctors that I went to, they never imagined I could have an autoimmune disorder. And the symptoms are very similar to tuberculosis.
Oh.
And tuberculosis is one disease. Actually, I was tested for tuberculosis. Test would always come out negative, but they would say the test is such that half the times, even if it is positive, it comes out as negative. So they said that from your symptoms, it is looking like tuberculosis. So I took that full 9-month course of antibiotics for tuberculosis.
Oh.
And with that, it subsided. My symptoms subsided, but they never went away completely. So with all this, I completed my college, and after that, I wanted to do management. So after this thing, I was studying for those management entrance exams, and my health was always up and down, up and down. I remember even like it sometimes it used to go down so much that I remember I was actually admitted in hospital. And I remember even sitting on a hospital bed and actually studying.
Oh.
And
Indian kid, Akka, you're typical Indian kid.
and then actually during that time, my sister-in-law is a doctor herself, and she referred me to one doctor. Like by that time, I had consulted so many doctors, like all the doctors in Delhi. I had gone to Chandigarh. Nobody could find out anything wrong with me, you know. And then my sister-in-law, she told me about one doctor in Hyderabad who had returned, who had studied in the UK and come. And so in the meantime, I was giving my these things also. I did so I was preparing for my MBA entrance exams also. So then I went and consulted this doctor in Hyderabad, and he told me that he was the one who first told me that this is Crohn's disease, because he was from the UK, where this disease is common. And he was the one who told me this is Crohn's disease, and he started me on steroids. And it was for me, it was like a miracle cure. Like just like I popped that first tablet of steroid, from that itself I started feeling better. But the whole trouble was, after that, I came back to Delhi. But fortunately, it was in this little window that I had, where I was on steroids and feeling okay, that my MBA entrance exams happened. So, so I was able to do my MBA entrance exams, in that little window. Because after I came back, again, I had to go back to my regular doctor at AIIMS, whom I was consulting in Delhi. He shot down that diagnosis.
Oh.
And he said, no, this is not Crohn's. Crohn's is very rare here. It is, very, very unlikely that you have Crohn's or anything. And he put me back on tuberculosis medicines. This was my second dose of tuberculosis medicines. So twice I have taken that full course of anti-TB medicines. So anyway, then, but I had that small window at least where I could give my exams properly. And so I did very, very well in those exams. And then I got calls from all the IIMs and everything. I went for all the interviews, and I actually got through IIM Bangalore. And after that, I got a call from FMS in Delhi University also. And actually, by that time, I knew I had got through IIM Bangalore, and I was wondering whether to, it is a better university, better college than Faculty of Management Studies. I was wondering whether to go or not, but then I said, okay, let me go for the interview. So that was one interview. I think I went almost from the hospital bed, So I went, I gave the interview, and I got through FMS also. But later my health was so bad that, I decided I don't want to go to Bangalore and all. I want to stay at home. And so I finally took up FMS only, Delhi University. That's where I started studying. And so FMS also, it had two parts. Like I had got into, and I got admission into North Campus, which is actually the more it was the more popular, the more famous one and everything. But I left that also. They had another branch in South Campus, which was closer to my house. I said I'm only going to do that. Actually, like I think the first semester, most of it I did not attend, or at least half of it I did not attend. I was not well. But somehow, I just kind of sleepwalked through my MBA and I cleared it. And after that, you have these campus placements and everything. So then I got selected into Standard Chartered Bank.
Oh.
So I joined Standard Chartered Bank, and there were almost at that time, I think 25 management graduates from all over that had joined with me in that batch. My husband also, I met him there.
Oh, okay. Another side story.
So this so then they put us through one training session. We had a 3-month training session in Bombay, and after that they said that they were going to select a few people and send them to London for further training. So they selected 6 of us, so I was one of those selected. So then I went to London for 3 months actually, for further training in 2 lots of 1.5 months each. So that was my first trip abroad. Yeah. So through all of this, my health was always up and down, up and down. And always, like, I had that fear always at the back of my mind. When am I going to have a relapse? What is going to happen on the health front? So through all of that, with that always at the back, always up and down, I managed all this, Then this London thing happened. It was like a wonderful experience. And after that, I came back, and then I joined work. I started working, and I was never comfortable with the office stress, the corporate stress. I was never comfortable with it. But it all so I was working, falling ill very, very frequently, but still working, continuing. Then I was working in Delhi initially. After 1 year of working, again I really had a bad relapse. And again, when I went back to that doctor, he said anti-tuberculosis medicines. This would have been my 3rd course of anti-tuberculosis medicines. And I put my foot down. I said, nothing doing. I'm not taking more of this anti-tuberculosis medicines. And I said, I'm taking a break from everything. I actually quit my job. And I said, I'm taking a break from everything, and I'm going to try, some homeopathy. So, so this was when 93 college, 95, 96, around 97, I think, was when I quit my job. And I said, I'm going to now try homeopathy. So I went to homeopathy. And so actually the homeopathic doctor I went to was later I found out one quack. Okay. But somehow, maybe it was the whole thing that, now I'm off the job, off any kind of stress. Maybe that helped more than anything else, but I felt his medicines worked. And, I actually got a little better. Then after that, when I got a little better, but then later I really found out that this guy was actually a quack, and I think he was arrested also or something of that sort. Then I had to come back to allopathy. And when I went back to allopathy, that was the time when this doctor of mine accepted that I don't have tuberculosis. Because he said that, okay, you've if you've recovered even with homeopathy, and if you have survived without the anti-tuberculosis medicines, and if you're not dead by now, then I guess you don't have TB. You know, it was like after all of these years, you know, he finally accepted. So by the time, you know, this happened, I had been on a break for a year. So this whole saga, you know, from the time I started falling ill to the time I was finally diagnosed, it was 7 years. It was another darkest period of my life, because it was 7 years of just being constantly unwell, and nobody being able to tell me really what is wrong with me, of never knowing whether I'm ever going to get better, I'm ever going to have a normal life. It is like just unwell all the time, not able to eat anything, not able to do anything, so often like just bedridden, you know. And I never knew, whether I'm going to get well, because nobody could tell me what is even wrong with me. 7 years like that, it was like a really, really, really the darkest period of my life. It was, I think, somewhere maybe grace was with me even then, because I think this kind of a period can take, many people may not even live through it, you know. And I did everything through it. I did all my studies and everything. It was like I don't know if I can express it properly, the hopelessness, the helplessness of that time. So anyway, so finally, like after he accepted, that it was Crohn's, even then, at least there was some treatment, but even then it was like, there was no cure for it. So Crohn's is like it is, there is no cure for it, but at least there's no cure. Okay. There's no cure for Crohn's. So, but at least they could give me, some medicines. There is some treatment for the symptoms. There is symptomatic treatment, but there is no cure for it. So it was still a life sentence only, that anytime when you're under stress, you are going to have a relapse. Only thing is, now at least we know what is wrong with you, and if you have a relapse, there are some medicines, so which can at least get you back on track. So that was, so after I got that diagnosis, then I again started, I went back to work. This time I joined ICICI. So they were, starting their own retail venture at that time. It used to be called PFS. So I joined there. And it was an extremely stressful place. And so lots and lots of work, lots and lots of stress. And I had Crohn's. So that meant that every 6 months I was in the hospital, because I would have a relapse. It was just that, I was fortunately a very good worker. And so my bosses accommodated, they accepted, because, every 6 months I would have such a bad relapse that I had to just drop everything, whatever it was, and just go into a hospital, get admitted. So it was, it was going on like that till the year 2000. And, so actually, year 2000 was when I did the Isha program. And I did the first Isha program that was conducted in Bombay. And so this, actually, the people who kind of, brought Isha to Bombay, they were friends of my brother. And that's how they reached out to me. And, and that time I was working in ICICI, and this was a, program was like from 6 to 9 in the evenings, which meant I would have to get out of office at 5 o'clock. And, I said that I told, this friend that in ICICI, if you get out, from office at 5 o'clock, they will ask you like, are you taking a half day off, I actually registered for the program. I really wanted to go for it, but I was in the middle of so much work and so many deadlines that I felt finally that I cannot do it. And I actually didn't even go on the first day.
Oh.
So that day, that time, the program used to be such that the first day was only an introductory talk.
Oh.
And the program actually started from the second day. And so that night my friend called me and she said, why didn't you come? I said, look, I'm in the middle of too many things. I'm not going to be able to manage it. So, I don't think I can come. She said, like, I don't care. She said, you go back after the program. You work till midnight if you have to. Okay. But you come for this program. And, those were the words that, really stuck with me. And that's how I actually landed up at this program. And, for me, it was like just a kind of lifeline. I just, that program just made so much sense. His words just made so much sense that, I just clutched at it. And I was just, I did the program. And it was the first program in Mumbai. So there were no volunteers or anything. So all the volunteers were Maas and Swamis from the ashram. And it was a 7-day program with Sadhguru.
Sadhguru was there?
Yes,
Oh,
Sadhguru
okay.
himself. Yes, Sadhguru himself conducted the program. And there are only about 100 of us. There is this place called Sasmira Institute in Worli. So that is where it was conducted. It was like 7 beautiful evenings with Sadhguru. On the initiation day, Sadhguru actually sat with us and ate. And so after that program ended, they told us that in case any of you would like to have a private audience with Sadhguru, if there's anything that you wish to consult him about, so you can go and meet with him. So I went. That was, that was.
Oh, when I put this out, people will bother you with messages.
But you see, Anna, I don't even have the S of spirituality in me. The only reason, I went for the Isha program was because lots of people had told me that, yoga will help you, because you have a stress related disorder, yoga will help you. And I would have done any roadside yoga program. So I knew nothing about Sadhguru or Isha at that time. I would have done anything. It was just grace that I landed up at Isha. So when I went to meet Sadhguru also, I had no very deep questions in my head. I had only one question, which is that, Sadhguru, how do I get better? My question was only related to my health. So I went to meet him, and so I told him about my health condition, and so he put his thumb to my forehead for a minute, and then he told me, there is nothing wrong with you physically. Actually, that statement came as a very, very big shock to me, because my everything was physical. My whole condition was physical. I used to lose weight. I used to lose appetite. I used to land up in the hospital. So when he's telling me there is nothing wrong with me physically, so that obviously meant that it is a mental problem, and it meant that, that I was doing this to myself. So it came as a very, very big shock to me. And then he told me that, he told me to come for BSP. He said, you come for the BSP program. So that was my first meeting with Sadhguru. And so after that, I went for the BSP program. Actually, I was quite ill even during the BSP program. And I still remember there was a very beautiful volunteer. I could not eat anything. I was quite ill. I could not eat anything. So I used to tell her to request her to make one simple poha for me. Just a simple poha. So she used to just make that just for me, you know. So, and once, like, you know, so, you know, so that's how I did my BSP program. And after doing my BSP program, so one thing was I have stuck to the practice, like very, very diligently. I stuck to my practices. So I did the BSP program. Nothing, nothing much changed actually for me on my health front. Even after doing the BSP program, even after doing the practices. So it was all like a fine balance. You know, always I had to be watchful. Always I had to be on my guard. I was worried about I was worried about everything. I had, you know, worried about eating out. Um, you know, so so that's how it was going on. In the middle I got married. That also happened in the year 2000 only. So um, so all of this was going on, you know. So life was for me like constantly just being on the guard, being on the watch, never carefree, never, like, you know, always watching everything I'm eating, never eating out. It was very, very restricted lifestyle. And with that, you know, with that I was managing, uh, and after that, Anna, we decided that, you know, to have a baby. So that was now in the year 2005. So it was in the year 2005. Till then it was going on. It was ups and downs, ups and downs. I was still falling ill, not landing up in the hospital, managing the condition with medicines and everything, but still ups and downs on the health front. So when we decided to have a baby, I was very worried that, you know, like, when I'm expecting that time, I should not have a relapse. I was very, very, very worried as to, you know, how it would impact the baby if I had a relapse at that time. And so then, you know, when I found out that I was expecting, I again quit my job. I said, I want to be at home and I want to make sure that, you know, this pregnancy goes off well. So I quit my job, and on the yoga front, I did everything that I knew, you know, to ensure so that this would go off smoothly. So that time I had only done, that time actually in the initial program, Sadhguru used to teach Shakti Chalana Kriya, not Shambhavi.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So I had actually, my very first program actually was Shakti Chalana Kriya. So I was doing Shakti Chalana Kriya. Then I used to make sure that I was doing you know, Sukha Kriya, I was doing Om chanting. And there was this extremely powerful meditation called Chit Shakti meditation. No, actually it used to be called Kalpavriksha meditation. Now it is called Chit Shakti meditation. That time it used to be called Kalpavriksha meditation. So that meditation was, you know, how to use, you know, the power of your mind to achieve your goals. So I used to do that meditation every single day with, you know, as much intensity as possible. And always in that meditation, like, my short-term goal was always focused on my baby. You know, it was always that she should be healthy. It was, you know, to the extent of, like, you know, if I had to go to the extent of every ultrasound that I went for, you know, I imagined that it would be normal, she would be healthy. Everything was focused on her. And at that time, I always wanted 2 children. So my midterm goal was, you know, focused on that I should have 2 children. That's how I imagined my family. And this meditation I did like every single day without fail, with complete intensity. And everything went fine during my pregnancy. Then when I was about in my 7th month of pregnancy, that time my mother, you know, she was an arthritic patient and she went through like a hip knee replacement surgery. And she was, actually it was, I think, knee replacement surgery. And she was very, very worried about it. And she was very scared of going through it. So that was the only time I removed, my eyes from my baby, and I shifted it to my mom during my meditation. That was the only time I kept my short-term goal focused on my mother, that, her operation should go off successfully and she should come out of it. That happened. She came out successfully out of her operation, but that was the time when everything went wrong with my pregnancy. So that time when I went, that time when I went to the doctor. So after that ultrasound, he told me that my baby had something called diaphragmatic hernia. That means she had a hole in her diaphragm, and all the stomach muscles had pulled up into the chest area and squashed her lungs. And it was a very, very severe condition. And he actually told me that, this baby is not going to survive. It was such a big shock to me. It was like in my 7th month of pregnancy. And actually, for a moment, we even considered aborting the pregnancy, because, they said, because one thing was that, we knew this one thing had gone wrong, but we didn't know what else could have gone wrong, whether she would even otherwise be normal. But it was too late, too far gone to consider all that. So I had to go ahead. I wrote to Sadhguru actually at that time. And I said, Sadhguru, what do I do? So I got a reply. So Sadhguru said, you come to the ashram. But then, by the time I got the reply, I was too far gone in the pregnancy, and I was not allowed to travel. So I wrote back to him saying, Sadhguru, at this stage in my pregnancy, I cannot travel. So then he gave me a mantra, and he said, you have to recite this mantra every waking moment. I did that, Anna. Every waking moment of my life after that, I recited that mantra. So anyway, so while I was, consulting with Sadhguru, I was also just running from pillar to post, consulting every doctor I could find. We were in Mumbai at that time. Every pediatrician in Mumbai I must have consulted. But everyone told me the same thing, that her condition is too severe and she will not make it. And we were considering whether we could go abroad for treatment, but we didn't have the means for that. And somewhere again, actually, my sister-in-law, she told me about one doctor in Hyderabad, and in Bangalore, sorry. And she said that, you consult him, because he's a very good doctor and he has handled cases of this sort. So I spoke to that doctor, and he was the only doctor who gave us some hope, and who said that, I have handled cases of this sort, and 80% of the cases I have handled have survived. So, so he said, you come to Bangalore for the delivery. So, Anna, I was based in Mumbai, and in the middle of my pregnancy, at such an advanced stage of my pregnancy, I had to shift to Bangalore. I have no base in Bangalore. I have no family in Bangalore. I didn't know from where to start. First of all, I needed a house. Like, who will give you a house on rent for like 3 months? And the way things fell in place for me, Anna, it was like Sadhguru's grace. That is it. So out of the blue, my father, found that he had a friend in Bangalore who had a fully furnished flat which was vacant. And, he said that you can just have it. You can take it and use it because anyway it's furnished and it's vacant and I'm not using it. And it was, close enough to the hospital also, because Bangalore has very bad traffic. I needed something close to the hospital also. And then my parents, my mother had recovered by then. So my parents said that, we will come and we will be with you, So that's how, every problem just got sorted. And then, so I went to Bangalore for the pregnancy. And this doctor was, just a complete godsend. The way they, right after my baby was born, she needed an operation. And she was in the ICU for 3 weeks. So that whole time, Anna, my only job was, I used to sit in the ICU next to her and chant this mantra that Sadhguru had given me. And it was that mantra which pulled her out, because at every stage she needed energy. As soon as she was born, she was on the ventilator. From the ventilator, she had to come out, then she was on oxygen. After that, she had to come out because she had only one lung. The other lung was completely gone. So that one lung, with that one lung, she had to survive. So initially it was completely machine, it was ventilation. Then she came on oxygen. And when she was, and at any stage, it was like a period, at any stage it could have stopped, like she could have needed ventilator all her life. She could have needed oxygen all her life. We didn't know at till what stage she would be able to pull through, but she pulled right out of it, Anna. She just pulled right through. And after 3 weeks, in the ICU, she was normal and she was discharged, and I brought her home. So it was that day, Anna, like when I brought her home, that was the day I thought to myself that my life is going to be dedicated to Sadhguru. Because I knew it was his grace which had just seen through this whole period. Anna, I had no time to, after that ultrasound, and I found out what problem was there. I had no time to grieve. I was just always just, looking what is to be done now, going to this doctor, that doctor, going to every doctor in Mumbai, trying to see whether I could, it was I was just on it, so Anna, the funniest thing, my baby was born on July 28th, 2005. And July 28th, 2005 was when Mumbai had its worst floods.
Oh,
The worst floods in its history. So if I had been in Mumbai at that time, I would not even have made it to a hospital.
Right.
But, I was taken away from Mumbai. I was in Bangalore at that time,
Right.
So, after so my baby, so I after after that we came back to Mumbai. We came back to our house in Mumbai. And so when she was about 3 months old, Bharati Ma, she actually came to stay with me.
Oh.
So she stayed with me for a few days, and so Sadhguru had come for a program.
Oh.
And so Bharati Ma stayed with me for a few days. And then after the program was over, she told me that I have arranged a meeting for you with Sadhguru.
Oh.
So at that meeting, Anna, I could take my baby also. So, that was my second meeting with Sadhguru. So, both of us, we met with Sadhguru for, he was staying at one meditator's house. So we went and we met him for a few minutes. And I told him about my baby. And so he he looked at her and then he asked me, what do the doctors say about her? So I said, Sadhguru, the doctors say that, she will be fine. She's never going to be an athlete, but she will be fine. She will be leading a normal life. So I think Sadhguru was not satisfied. So he told me, you bring her to the ashram and you come when I'm there. So then I said, definitely Sadhguru. And I asked him, so Sadhguru, when will you be there at the ashram? So he told me to come in December. So in December, I went to the ashram with my baby. She was, I think, some 5 or 6 months old at that time. And I went, I had to carry so many things with me. I still remember, I actually even took her bathtub along.
Oh.
I took her bathtub, I took anyway, with a 6-month-old baby, I went to the ashram. And I actually, Sadhguru had told me, you come when I am there. And when I went to the ashram, but nobody was willing to listen to me. Nobody was willing to listen that, Sadhguru had told me to come. But
Akka, you got muted, I think. Voice, I think somehow you got muted. Yeah, now it came. Yeah.
So finally, just before I was to leave, 2 days before I was to leave, I finally got an audience with him.
Okay.
So the brahmachari, the ma who was letting me in, she said that when she finally told Sadhguru that I was here, it seems Sadhguru told her, Ma, why didn't you tell me earlier?
Oh, okay.
So Anna,
You just got cut. Like Ma was saying something. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, Anna, like I was at the ashram, nobody was willing to understand that I know Sadhguru has called me and I am supposed to meet him. So I never got an appointment with him. Only like 2 days before I was to leave, that finally I got an appointment with him. So Anna, so he saw me and the baby, Actually, he saw us for 3 days continuously. And he did some process with her. And so at the end of it, Anna, I asked him, Sadhguru, how should I bring her up? So he told me that, you just follow her because she is anyway going to come to me. Actually, the before that, when I had met him in Bombay with her, that time he told me that you give her to me. He told me. I was Anna, still a new meditator at that time.
Okay.
And I was a little shocked when he said that. Then he looked at me, and then he said, okay, if you can't give her to me, you also come.
Okay.
And at that time, I used to take everything he said literally. So when he said, you also come, I thought he was actually telling me to come to the ashram. So after that meeting,
Okay.
Anna, I'm so sorry, but I have to go now.
No, it's good. So, we'll stop it like this. We'll keep the audience for more. Yeah. Yes.
I'll call you back, Anna, after my call is over.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
Okay.
Namaskar.
Okay, Anna. Thank you. Namaskar.